Well, not the people that live on Hurlingham.
Yeah, well, who listens to us that's on Hurlingham? What's routinely happening, certainly in Ontario, what's routinely happening is you have counsel, rightfully, given the development of the case law, certainly in Ontario, counsel take the position that the termination provision in the employment agreement is unenforceable. And typically, often that's the case, because the language that was used to draft the termination provision is imprecise and therefore false. It's unenforceable. So what does that mean? Well, if the termination provision is no longer enforceable, then the common law applies. So what does that actually mean? Well, Act 1 is counsel saying, oh, the language here is imprecise, you used the wrong words, therefore the termination provision is unenforceable. So employer, you can't rely on it even though you expected to be able to rely on it. So your severance package, therefore, is inadequate because the termination provision is inadequate. Well, okay, slow clap on that one. The first act, you're successful. But the second part of the play, the second act in the play is, all right, but what are your damages now that the termination provision is unenforceable? And in many cases, those employees that have been terminated that are now seeking severance in excess of the termination provision in their contract are very marketable. And the way common law damages, reasonable notice damages works, is that you have an obligation to mitigate as that former employee, which means you have to go out and secure alternate employment. And in many cases, those employees are indeed marketable and very capable of securing alternate employment. And therefore, the employer's position becomes, okay, you're right, the termination provision will concede it, that the termination provision is unenforceable, but your client counsel can easily secure alternate employment given him or her, their skills, their education, and the market for that skill set. So no, you don't have the leverage you think you do because you've now been successful or you've secured our recognition of the vulnerability of that termination provision. So no, there is the second act that's very, very important. Meanwhile, you can't get off Hurlingham. No wonder you hurl. Keep going round and round and round at some point.
It did say no exit.